Okay, it might be useful to show how I mount the part in here in the chuck. First, to make sure the chuck jaws are clean. Okay, this is how I mount the part in the chuck. Make sure it's back all the way in the chuck jaws. Tighten it down. And these are these clamps, these special clamps I made. To hold the part so it can't come out of these jaws, because I'm only chucking onto this very little amount, as you see here. Now, somebody did ask a question, and I discussed this in the previous video. And if you tighten I tighten in these, I took one of the screws that holds the chuck jaw, the soft jaw here, onto the master jaws out, and they were asking the question about, well, you're only holding on with one screw, but that's not actually true, because when I tighten these clamps down, these pieces of all-thread rod go all the way into the master jaw. So it's tightening the master jaw back onto the chuck the same as if the screw was in there to begin with, just that now I have the clamp on top. Also, if you're going to use all-thread rod for studs and things like this, like on fixtures or on milling machines or whatever, to hold down clamps, get the high-strength variety. This stuff like you buy in Home Depot or something like that is the soft steel, and it's not strong enough for this purpose. So I ordered this off of McMaster Carnes. It's the high-strength all-thread rod. Now let me jog the machine down here. Put the dial indicator in the spindle. First I have to orient the spindle. Clamp it. We're going to check the run out of the part in the chuck. Probably going to have to adjust these. So, okay, now, even though in theory this should run pretty true from the last time, let's see if I can get the dial indicator in a way that you can see it here. Let me move the camera a little bit closer. I can. get the high spot on the OD here. Well, that's probably not super critical. I'll get the 0 up here so we can kind of see it easier. Maybe you can see it easier on the screen of the camera. If I get this like this, so there's a little bit less glare from the lights. Okay. Now, let me check this and see if it's running true or not. And when I adjust set screws on these set true chucks, this is an adjustable set true chuck. I don't leave them tight. Like you can tighten these down, these screws on the OD here, there's 4 screws, real tight, but that distorts the body of the chuck. You don't want to do that. Just use them to move the chuck on its mount, and then back them off and just snug them up. Don't leave them real tight. Just trying to get this, it's running within less than 1,000. So that's probably okay. It's probably not running perfectly true. Well, it's not too bad. All the way up and down the part. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now let me move this back so we can see what's happening here. I'm going to actually also check the various center of the part and everything, the X and Y 0, if you will. Let me run the CX's back to 0. I'm just watching the readout on the machine here, physically jogging it back to 0, or close to 0. Okay, that's probably good enough. Now I want to come down here and actually put my machine on X and Y 0. Like this. Here again, I'm just physically jogging it on the display here of the control to 0. Probably isn't going to be exactly 0. We're going to unclamp the spindle so I can rotate it. Let me see if I can, I'm going to have to move the camera here. Or maybe you can see the dial indicator better. Okay. Now, let's jog up to the machine and set our dial indicator someplace here that looks reasonable. And on 0, run it down to the minus side. I don't know if you can see that or not. So there's kind of a shadow falling on this thing. All right. The X actually looks pretty good, but the Y is off a little bit here, where I previously had it. I just check this on every part just to be sure, because I want to make sure that everything is still running true. I don't know if you could see that indicator. This is the glare. Maybe this is too much light. All right. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe we could go over here. Go to the work offset here. We go teach 0 over here, input, teach 0 input. Now we should be on 0 0 up here on our display. Then we're going to jog the Z-axis back. We're going to put the orient the spindle and clamp it. The hammer probe in here. Come up here and set our Z0. Our Z0 actually was within 1/10 of a thousandth of our previous location for the previous part. It's just something to always remember to jog, the opposite way away from the part first. Like if you were going to set something on the OD of this and you were coming down at a fast jog rate, and then you pushed a button on your control over here, but you thought you pushed the wrong button, or you thought you pushed the right button, I should say, but you pushed the wrong one. So jog it away first, and then jog it into the indicator like this. It's always better to do that, because if you were still on the high jog rate and you kind of were spinning the jog wheel fast because you thought you were on a slow jog rate, you would break the tip off this indicator, or this, particularly jogging in a way too. Be careful. Just something always to remember. It's kind of like on a manual machine. You always tend to jog or rotate the handle away from your work to begin with and then into it. It's just a thing you kind of learn after you do a lot of machine work, because you're going to make a mistake someday and jog at a high jog rate into the part with your dial indicator, and you're going to break it, or your spindle probe or whatever you're using. So first jog away and then back into the part. All right, now the part is pretty much ready to go. So that's how I indicated in. It was running very true to begin with. There was not really a problem with anything. In fact, the Z was within 1/10 and the part was running within less than 1,000th. So this chuck rechucked it pretty closely. And as you can see, with the chuck jaws clamps, this part isn't going anywhere. It's like it really held into the chuck, and it's not going to come out of the chuck. Okay, what I've determined is that on this part, 8-inch long pieces are what I need to go in there for the plugs. So I've got to cut 2 8-inch long pieces. First I'm going to cut the end off of this yeah, turn this over here. What I've found is that the end of the bar has got distortion in it, and it won't let it go up in the hole. Now I got to cut 2 pieces 8 inches long. To go up in this part. That gives me enough to hold on to get it out. Okay, that's good enough for that. Now they won't quite go in. Get rid of this grinder real quick. Got so much junk on my bench here, and I don't know what to do here. Now before, let me deburr these just a little bit here. Before, they wouldn't go in the holes without polishing them a little bit. It's not critical that these are perfect, but okay. Now, so what I found is I have to polish these a little bit. Okay, I got to put it in the first hole and the fourth hole, the plugs. So first I've got to blow out the coolant out of both holes, or I'd never get it in there. Okay, let's try that. Sometimes I have to blow it out more even. Just depends. Let's see if this one goes in the first hole here. Okay. Okay, that one bottoms out. Now, got to polish the other one. There's still coolant in that hole. I can't get it. I want to shove it all the way up in there. And then what I found was that I can now something's biting. All right, now let me mark them. Here. Okay. That one's a little bit tighter in there. Might have to use the pliers to get it out. And what I found, if I just kind of hit these a little bit here, just right out at the end, not too much, because it can be hard to get out of there. It's enough to distort the rod so that it has a slightly friction, interference fit right there. That seems to be enough. So this is what I did I've already did one of these parts, so I know this. See, that's just enough so that I can tap it in there, but I can still get it out. I did that a little bit too much on the first part, and I had a lot of difficulty getting one of these out of there. And actually might be kind of tight. I'm hoping that I won't have problems. Suspicion that one of these is going to be awfully difficult to get out. I think I got carried away with this one here, hammering it, you know, on the end here. That one came out pretty easy. This one I think is going to be a little bit more difficult. All right. All right, you can see very extremely sharp here. See where the drill intersected those two, I guess, if you can see that. All right, let me get the borescope in there and I'll show you some pictures inside if I can. See, so there's the intersection of that hole on the one side. There's the intersection on the other side of that hole. Here's the other hole. Let's see if we can see this. See the intersection there. And then let's look at the other side of that. See it right there. So it actually left very little burr. Won't be too hard to deburr it because with that plug in there, actually it leaves a very sharp edge, but I don't know if it would be really necessary to deburr it at all. Really, there's not really any burrs, just a very sharp corner. That one hole could have been drilled deeper, but that was the specification on the drawing. So the plug thing was pretty successful. I don't know how good that's going to show up on this camera, how close this other camera focuses. We're going to have to see. See, this one hole right here could have been drilled a little deeper, but the specification on the drawing was only that deep, so they intersect. And I'm assuming that these are fluid passages, of course.